Seeds have been planted time and time again, and we remember all of those who went before us, who made beloved community a dream that could be realized. Justice is our prayer. May our time of worship service together continue to water the budding trees of our diverse interdependence. May our time of worship give air and nourishment to the parts of our collective spirits that need to grow and thrive, that embrace equity as a known way of being. Justice is our prayer. We affirm in covenant with the beloved community that it is possible. May it be so. Let us worship together. And will someone do the honors of lighting the chalice? May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. And our first hymn is number 6.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life, though with pain I make my way. Just as long as vision lasts,
Our responsive reading this morning is written in your order of service. It is called We Are Known in Community, and was written by Leslie Takahashi. We who have no all-knowing deity to whom to relegate all the heartbreaks and complexities of human hatreds often feel alone. We who are not sure of what is larger than us are sometimes left with a sense of burden when the world is troubled. We witness the voices of generations raised in opposition to one another. We witness strife and conflict and long for the one simple answer that we know can never be. In our angers at the state of the world, we can lash out or are tempted to retreat within our own hearts. Okay, ours is a spiritual journey where we find and we forge connection. We trust in the strength of our mutual support, knowing how it has sustained us day after day, year after year. Each week, we invite you to come up and share any joyful or sorrowful news that has come into your life and to light a candle in honor of the event or a person who has affected you. Would someone like to start us off with our joys and concerns for this week?
This is, oh. Ah, hi.
There she is.
This is not a joy or a sorrow. It's being totally vexed by two or three things. There are several seasons I don't care for. One is the leaf me alone season and salt stains. And I think I am also going to start a movement against cuckolduds. Hold on. Light.
Linda here. I have 5 things I'm trying to remember. One of them is last week walking home from church, my right leg, my right foot, as I hit a patch of ice hiding underneath the snow, went up in the air, and I flipped on my back like a turtle.
Oh, no.
Full weight, but the snow broke my fall over the ice. However, my left foot stayed firmly planted on the ground, and so my leg, with this being the knee, did this when I fell.
Ugh.
If I had osteoporosis, I would have snapped my leg somewhere around the knee. But instead, I'm very happy to report that I was only sore for a few days. That was a close call, though. A few days before the end of January, several Friends churches, Quakers, joined by a Sikh temple and the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship denomination, filed a lawsuit against the administration over the executive order for certain government officials to invade churches. I forgot where that was filed, but I wanted to let you know that last week, the Mennonites, the United Methodists, Presbyterians, the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, Reformed Jews, and African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church filed another lawsuit for the same thing in Washington, D.C., joined by 6 other denominations, including the Unitarian Universalists. And on that same subject, they have announced that they're no longer going to be using body cams during their activities out in the world, so that no one can see what they're doing. And finally, I have been enjoying the coffee after church so much that I have decided to buy my very first ever coffee maker. Thank you. So those are several joys and sorrows. Anyone else?
You did a great job of remembering all of that. I could never have done it myself, and good information to have. Do we have any other Joys or concerns or vexations? No? Yes?
I saw Pam unmuted. I want to know if she had something to say.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything Pamela was saying.
No, we can't hear Pam. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Maybe someone would light one last candle for us. Our candles remind us that here we are all kindred souls. We are never alone in the human condition. There is love that cares for us all. As we approach our offering, I encourage you to give what you can for the church that has meant so much to you, for the church that meant so much to those who came before us, and for the church that will mean so much to people who you will never know. Give what you can. I know you are a generous group. Thank you.
Spirit of life, come,
Come unto me,
sing
sing in my heart,
stirrings of compassion, blow
blow in the wind, rise in the
move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice, roots multiply grows, wings set me free, spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our reflection this morning comes to us from Meg Barnhouse. The title of it is, Who Says UU Principles Are Easy? I have gone to a lot of church services in my time. When I was 8, wearing Mary Jane shoes and white stockings, in a blue coat with a velveteen collar that my mother had sewn, sitting next to my little sister in her coat, which was identical to mine, trying not to wiggle in the pew, I would make check marks as the sections of the order of service finished. Hymn number 1, pastoral prayer, scripture reading, sermon. I loved checking off the sermon. My cousin, Ed the Brave, would carry a transistor radio in his pocket and run the earphones up through his shirt so that you could barely see the wire carrying the music or a ball game to his ear. The church of my childhood had big plain windows, eggshell walls, red carpet. I think the most exciting thing that ever happened in church was when the man in front of me held so still that a small spider was able to spin a web in the angle of his neck, stretching the silk from his ear to the shoulder of his gray suit, making a perfect design that was only disturbed when he rose to sing the last hymn. We colored in our bulletins and we looked through the hymnals and made ourselves giggle by adding between the sheets to their titles. A Baptist friend says she and her friends added in the bathtub. Turn back, old man, between the sheets. We three kings of Orient are in the bathtub. Years ago, I came to this Unitarian Universalist community of faith. I'm home. I listen to people talk sometimes about liberal religion as if it's thin gruel, watered down to please everyone. Our 7 principles, they complain, are either too like a creed or so general as to be meaningless. My experience of the principles is that they are deeply demanding. The first one asks me to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, which means that I can no longer subscribe to the cheerful Calvinist doctrine of the total depravity of human nature. It sounds grim, but if you are in fact starting with a totally depraved nature, the opportunities for self-congratulation abound. Hey, I didn't knock over a 7-Eleven this afternoon, even though money's pretty tight. I'm doing well. Now I have to struggle with the worth and dignity of people who do unspeakably awful things, whereas the doctrine of total depravity made that one a no-brainer. I'm supposed to value the democratic process, hearing the voice of everyone equally, allowing everyone to have a say. The UU principles are demanding enough to make me whine. For those who feel that they are thin gruel, I have a suggestion. Let's stick something onto the end of every principle that will stop people from smiling and nodding comfortably as they are read. Instead of adding in the bathtub or between the sheets, how about attaching beginning in our homes and congregations? Then we'd be faced with affirming things like the goal of peace, liberty, and justice for all, beginning in our homes and congregations. Everyone who has raised children knows that peace is often at odds with liberty and that justice demands a disturbance of the peace. To put these 3 together in one principle is outrageous and lovely. It's easier to think about working towards them in a global context than in the context of Cheerios and pajamas, car keys, and cleaning up one's bedroom. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, beginning in our homes and congregations, is a sobering ideal. I don't know about you, but I have sat in meetings about right relations and seen people get testy with one another. One of the nastiest behaviors I've seen was long ago at a community workshop for peace and activists. Lao Tse, quoted in the back of our hymnal, says peace in the world begins with peace at home, which begins with peace in the heart. If I start with my own heart, the demands of our principles get even heavier. peace and compassion in my heart, justice too, freedom as well, affirming the worth of every person all the time, not only with my words and with my behavior, but also with my secret heart. If we added in the heart to the principles, they might as well just say, be Jesus and be done with it. So I'm sorry I even brought it up. For me, the heart of the liberal faith is to be connected to something greater than yourself, to wallow in the spirit of love and truth, to have fair trade coffee and important conversations, to stand for love and to stand against quibbling, complaining, and flouncing off in a huff, to move toward being in right relationship with ourselves, one another, and the planet. For me, this faith is not thin gruel. It's not even a rich and hearty gruel. It's walnuts and bananas and pancakes, mangoes, arugula, ginger, and avocado. The feast is prepared with effort, enjoyment, persistence, and commitment. Care to join me? And now we'll just have a moment of silence before we start the sermon. Have any of you ever given much thought to foundations? I mean the ones under buildings. I have this tendency to think that it would be really easy to add on to a house until a contractor comes along to give an estimate and starts to talk about what will be needed to build the foundation. Even if the new room is going on a slab, there's trench digging, gravel, rebar, and cement in the offing. Much of this requires heavy equipment. A foundation is no small thing, whether it be for a structure, learning skills, your beliefs, or core values. A foundation has to be unshakable. It cannot crack at the first sign of pressure. It cannot erode away with the climate. Belief systems, core values, cannot be changed on a whim or at will. If they can easily be changed, then they are not true core values. They are not the foundation that we need to support us as we go through life. By the time we reach adulthood, or at least we should have established some pretty solid core values, our foundation for how we conduct ourselves. Since the beginning of organized religion, there's been an argument about whether human beings need it to teach us morality, which is essentially the same as core values. I don't believe religion is necessary, but it can help us define our personal values and maintain them over the years. Because no matter who you are, your core values are going to come under pressure, and they're going to be subject to the weathering of life. The so-called golden rule is probably the core value that we all know the best. Do not unto others what you do not want them to do to you. That's how it's stated for Christians in the Bible, in Islam through the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, in the Talmud for Jews, in Buddhism for the Buddha, and in Confucianism through the Analects. The golden rule is therefore common to most of humanity, no matter what our ethnicity, religion, or politics. And yet, we cannot seem to live it all the time. The golden rule is also expressed as love your neighbor as yourself. Treat people with the same respect and kindness that you desire for yourself. It is Unitarian Universalism's first principle. Every person has inherent worth and dignity. Do unto others and love your neighbor. Even the words every person are just words that can be limited in their scope if we haven't personally invested some time and thought in defining what those words really mean to us as individuals. It's too easy to only look at the neighbors who are like you and not extend your love to those who aren't like you or who don't think like you. It is too easy to forget the second part of Jesus' teaching about do unto others, the part that tells us there are no others. We are all one. It is too easy to look at someone whose life circumstances give them an appearance that is so alien to your own. They might be a beggar on a street, a homeless person living in filth under a bridge, a trans person. You may forget that they too have inherent worth. A picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say, and I hope you're all familiar with the graphic that we UUs have adopted. With love at the center and transformation, pluralism, generosity, justice, equity, and interdependence entwined around the chalice of love. It helps me remember that there is more to our core values than words, words that at times can seem empty. If you don't know that graphic, just look up the UU website and you'll see it. I just finished reading the book, The In-Between, Unforgettable Encounters During Life's Final Moments, which was written by Hadley Vlahos. Hadley is a hospice nurse. Her work brings her in contact with everyone from the very wealthy to the homeless. Her goal is to give every patient that she comes in contact with a good death. And that good death usually means being with family at the moment that we leave the earth. When she first visits Ed, a homeless man who literally lives under a bridge in an encampment of other homeless people, she's stunned. How is she going to provide a good death to someone who lives in filth and has no family? What does Ed have in common with her other patients? It seems to her he is very much alone. He is a lost soul. And how did he end up here? By some standards, you would ask, if he were a good citizen, would he be living outdoors under a bridge? How will she be able to find and appreciate Ed's inherent worth? Who will help her look after him until he's gone? As adults, before we enter any relationship, there is one thing we should first establish. Does the person or organization share my values? And before we can do that, we must be very clear on our own values. Unitarian Universalism has been my rock in that department. When I first found UUism, there were 7 principles. While I didn't know it until I had kind of advanced in my own search for meaning and truth in life, those 7 principles agreed with my already established core values, the ones that I was raised with, without the benefit of any religion. Neither of my parents were into organized religion. The first few times I read the principles on the back of the program, I thought, I agree with these. These are good. But it took a few years of spiritual development to learn that these are the rules I want to live by. What does it mean to live by your values? It sounds simple, but of course, for we frail and vulnerable human beings, it's not. Mark Nepo notes in his Book of Awakening that at some points in our lives, we are all like puppies in the pound. Pick me, pick me. Sometimes it's for a job that we might in fact really need. Sometimes it's a friendship or a potential lover or an organization that we might think we need to belong to. I remember one time when I was divorced and the market for having PR people had really gone south because it was right after 9/11. And I considered going to work for a company that sold cigarettes. Fortunately, I was not offered the job, mainly because I drew the line at being the boss's lackey and picking up his dry cleaning. But would I have taken it if it had been offered? Could I work with an organization that sold a product that literally destroys people's lives? I really needed an income, but it is at moments like this that we become confused. It's very hard to balance our core values against eating and having a roof over our heads. It's even hard to balance them against working sometimes for a prestigious company that pays good wages and offers good benefits, but might not be doing good things for our society. But in the long run, is a job that goes against your core values really going to work out for you as a moral individual, as a Unitarian Universalist? If we get confused by offers of money and prestige, we get even more confused by love. Love is blind. Wow, is it ever? At first, that is. I've been confused by love, and let me tell you, I'm glad to say that I've reached a point in my life where I'm done with being confused by love. I've dated a bit since my husband died. One guy thought he could go have an endoscope under sedation, drive himself there and back, and meet me for lunch. I had to flatly tell him I wasn't interested in being with someone who didn't think that the rules that apply to everybody else applied to him, even though he might be endangering someone else's life. Others hid their true colors from me at the beginning. This included racism and prejudice against LGBTQ individuals. Others think it's fine to drive gas-guzzling cars and boats and don't believe in climate change. Some people retire and then they end up going back to work because even though they don't need the money, but they don't know what to do with themselves. Really, there is so much you can do with yourself that helps other people. These are pressures and weathering that I've experienced, and your experiences are going to be quite different. My foundation, the 7 principles, helps me draw the line at being around people who don't share my core values. I am just past it. I have my values, and I'm not going to be swayed by love or money or peer pressure, prestige, or whatever. And these days, my friends, are not days to be swayed by anything. These days are ones to be thankful that our 7 principles, which are the foundation of our faith, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process, the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. As Meg Barnhouse says, our principles are not easy. They are demanding enough to make you whine. Meg says that just everyday life, working, raising children, looking after each other, shows us the challenges of melding our ideals with real life. How about the headlines since January 20th? Federal grant programs put on hold. USAID shut down. There are only two sexes. January 6th perpetrators pardoned. Deregulation by firing. I could go on, but you can look up the first 30 days of this administration's doings yourself in the Times or on Google. And these are truly things that go against our core principles. Our core values are not watered down, liberal, thin gruel made to please everyone. No, our foundation has been dug by heavy equipment, reinforced with gravel, rebar, and cement, and given time to cure so that it will withstand any pressure or climate catastrophes that come along. As Mae Barnhouse says, now I have to struggle with the worth and dignity of people who do awful things. I'm supposed to value the democratic process. Oh, Meg, you are so right. The UU principles are enough to make anyone who has taken them as their foundation for core values whine mightily. What is going on in the news these days is meant to wear us down. It's one insult to the golden rule after another, repeated by justice, equity, and compassion don't matter. Acceptance of one another doesn't matter. Truth and meaning no longer matter. The democratic process no longer matters. Peace, liberty, and justice for all? Not important. And the interdependent web of all existence? Not important if there's money to be made by exploiting it. There is no doubt it is wearing, but we are not people who can be easily worn down. We have our connections with each other, which makes us greater than we would be if we stood alone. As Sam Trombone wrote in the benediction that I'm saving for the end, holding reality and possibility together, great possibilities await us, even if all we can see is the cliff before us. We are staring right into the cliff before us, but great possibilities await us because we have the foundation that we need to see us through. We have our voices. This is not a time to remain silent or to maintain political correctness. Prior to the election, we tried to find ways to communicate with those who thought differently than us. We tried to find common ground. It's very evident that those who voted for MAGA did not know the full consequences of the actions that were being proposed. Now those consequences are becoming obvious. Now there are some voices that were previously for the ideas saying, well, that's not what we expected to happen. We have to look at this as an opportunity for more open conversation. We have to think of Lao Tse's peace in the world begins with peace in the home, which begins with peace in the heart. Go back to the graphic. Love is at the center. Peace starts with love. Love at the center of our hearts, our families, our congregation, and therefore our world. It's our job to spread the love from whatever soapboxes we can find to stand on, and most definitely from our UU pulpits. It's the job of your leadership to pump you up every week, to help you keep your core value foundations strong enough to withstand the wearing down process, to inspire you to work for those values in the greater community. You don't need to work them all. Just pick one that's important to you. When Hadley Valleyhouse began working with Ed, who lived under a bridge with other homeless people, she couldn't see the community that existed in his life. Gradually, she learned he had close friends there who would look after him, who would make sure that he got the medicine and the food that he needed. She offered him a bed in a hospital, but she learned that Ed, like most of her other patients, could have a good death in his home, which consisted of a makeshift tent under a bridge. When Ed died, it was one of the most moving experiences of her career. Hadley isn't a UU, and she wouldn't have expressed her feelings in these exact words, but it strengthened her belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. So, when you get a little worn down, and we will all experience those times, bring up that picture of a building's foundation in your mind. And remember that our UU principles have been built the same way. You are sitting on a rock solid foundation, and it will see you through. So be it, and blessed be. And will you join me in the singing of the second hymn, which is in your hymnal? I think it's 116.
118.
118. Sorry, I don't have the.
This little light of mine, I'm
gonna let it shine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm
gonna let it shine.
let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And do we have any announcements this morning?
I wanted to say for coffee hour, I'm not sure the person who's doing coffee hour is here today, but we have pretzels and cookies. Oh, there's coffee hour here? Okay, there's always coffee hour. And we were having a board meeting next Saturday.
So I'm kind of amazed because one would think that Donna and I might have coordinated what I'm about to say when in fact we did not. It's that time of year again. It's pledge time. So as stewards, Betsy, Patty, and I are charged with caring for the health of our congregation. But that doesn't just mean the financial health. It means we care for the health and well-being of every member as well. And lately, it seems that there's a general feeling of anxiety, hopelessness, and for some even fear of what might happen next. When we walk through the church doors, a lot of those negative feelings are erased. This is a sanctuary for us. When we get up in joys and concerns, and share with one another, we feel safe. We know that we will be heard and that the people here will sympathize or celebrate with us. The world out there seems to be meaner than it used to be. There seems little to believe in or count on. But when we come here, that seems to temporarily slip away. We kind of wondered what it is that makes it so. And we came to the answer that it's the people who come here. And those people are the way they are because they have certain core beliefs that they live by. So we decided that our theme for the pledge this year would be our 7 principles. This turned out to be timely for other reasons besides we needed it. First, we discovered that the Unitarians and Universalists initially came up with 6 principles when they joined in 1961. And I handed that out to you. Paul, you don't have one, but I'll give you one. So you have a copy of that, and you have a copy of our 7 principles. So you can kind of see how things changed from 61 to 1985 when the principles were changed. The second thing that I learned is that the UUA bylaws specifically say that at least every 15 years, the Unitarian Universalist principles need to be reevaluated. And so the third reason that this is timely is because in June of 2024, they revised the Unitarian Universalist principles, and we now have the values that Donna was talking about. So what we're planning on doing is going through the 6 principles to the 7 principles, and then on April 6th, which will be our event day and our celebration, we will introduce in our own silly way the new values of the Unitarian Universalist Association that are centered around love. Thanks.
Great. I always say that the universe provides, it makes things work well together somehow. Who knows? Are there any other announcements? Okay, then we'll close with the words of Sam Trombone. Trombore, I should say, Trombore. I invite you now into a time of gratitude, reflection, renewal, and hope. What an unearned blessing to delight in the calming peace of this space, to hear the robin's song at daybreak, to feel the warmth in this room, to enjoy the promise that summer is going to come. Each moment of wakefulness has so many gifts that offer energy and delight. Yet too often they seem unavailable as the weight of our troubles press down on us. The threats to our well-being, real or exaggerated, feel like mosquitoes in the night looking for a place to land. Minds become captive to rising floodwaters, forceful, murky, threatening, and ominous. Even in moments of great danger, the direction of attention is a choice. Fear can dominate the mind, binding it like a straitjacket, or love can unbind it and open it to resource and opportunity. The soil of the mind can be watered with kindness. The thorns can be removed one by one to appreciate the buds that are ready to flower. Great possibilities await us, even if all we see is the cliff before us. The grandeur of life of which we are a part scatters rainbows in every direction, even as the deluge approaches. Holding reality and possibility together is the holy, hope-filled work of humanity, if we choose it again and again in love. And will you join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice? We extinguish this chalice, and I'm sure Patty's going to help us out with this, but not the light of truth, the warmth of humanity, until we meet together again.
less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak when you open it to speak? Are you smart? But don't change your hair for me, not if you care for me. Just little Valentines. Stay. Each day is Valentine's Day.